and to imply that we should just ignore the impact that CaitlinClark had on this team, this league, this sport. Nah, it doesn't.
The WNBA went utterly crazy after basketball player Sue Bird decided against dating CaitlinClark.
Bird calls out ESPN host for, quote, hating on WNBA playoff ratings after CaitlinClark's exit. You see?
Yes, that is accurate. Criticizing Stephen A. Smith, former Caitlin fan Sue Bird asserted that the WNBA is succeeding without Clark. In addition to relocating to Europe, Caitlin is now enjoying a fantastic vacation. Sue also believes, falsely, that the statistics are still very high.
Impacting the WNBA well before this year. This is not a new thing. Sure. This is, and in that way, I do think Caitlin's being used as a pawn. Caitlin didn't bring systems to the WNBA. This has been happening, and that, I think, is what's been such a shock.
Caitlin's absence has generated a commotion on social media, with supporters demanding her return and refusing to watch anymore, suggesting that Sue had had enough of her defense. WNBA.
Astronomical. She is a big draw. She brings in all the things. And yes, the games where she's not playing have lower viewership. But in the WNBA playoffs are still breaking records from previous WNBA.
With every game played without Caitlin, the WNBA is deteriorating and reverting to reality. Sue believes that Caitlin's absence from basketball won't have any detrimental impacts, despite the fact that viewership has dropped without her.
If it's certain people at the face, and there is still this undertone of jealousy that for some reason I cannot get around calling it anything else but that, because I don't know what else it could be. I thought it was going to get better this season, but it hasn't. There are still people who seemingly, to me, feel like they just don't want Caitlin to be a part of it.
Rachel DEA made a really good point. WNBA legends would prefer to start over than deal with the competition Caitlin brings. Thus, they don't want the sport to progress when she is its face.
I know that you gave her props and you acknowledged how phenomenal she was in terms of a draw. What Shannon Sharp and I were guilty of saying was that not enough folks were appreciating.
Although CaitlinClark's presence transformed the WNBA, it appeared as though the league had lost its essence as she exited the playoffs. The league might be in grave danger as rumors of unrest in Europe intensify. When it initially came to CaitlinClark, WNBA star Sue Bird had nothing but good things to say. Sue Bird had been a strong advocate for Clark in her early comments, seeing her as a player who could make the game better. Sue Bird recognized that CaitlinClark wasn't simply another rookie and had the ability to revolutionize women's basketball.
Moved home games to bigger arenas when Indiana came to town to accommodate more fans. I'm not finished. Attendance for the entire league is up nearly 50% this year, and Indiana leads all teams with an average attendance of 17,035, up 319% from a year ago.
However, when Sue Bird began to minimize Clark's influence, things took an unexpected turn. This was unexpected, particularly from someone who had praised Clark so highly in the past. Bird, however, seemed to imply that Clark's absence was not a major factor in the league's recent problems. This sudden shift in Bird's perspective confused and even angered a lot of admirers. Stephen A. Smith, who is renowned for his audacious viewpoints and unvarnished commentary, is the one individual who has continuously backed CaitlinClark. Smith has never shied away from controversy, and when Clark exited the playoffs, he didn't mince words when he said that Clark's absence had ruined the postseason atmosphere.
Same with CaitlinClark and the Indiana Fever now eliminated. Game 1 of the Aces Liberty matchup on Sunday drew an average of 929,000 viewers. It was down nearly 50% from last Sunday's Fever Sun contest. By the way, not only was viewership.
Smith emphasized that Clark's departure had cost the WNBA its biggest draw, pointing out that viewership had sharply declined and that the league needed to recognize how important she was to their success. Smith's stance was a call to action rather than merely a statement. Sue Bird didn't agree with his belief that the WNBA has to do more to help players like Clark and keep the momentum going. She openly chastised Stephen A. Smith for his comments, saying he was wrong to attribute the decline in playoff viewership to CaitlinClark's absence alone. Bird said that the excitement surrounding the playoffs wasn't dependent on any one player and that there were other variables at play. After Bird disputed Smith's claims, fans and analysts got into a heated confrontation. In one sense, you had Stephen A. Smith claimed that CaitlinClark was the primary source of the playoff fervor, but you had Sue Bird, a legendary figure in the sport, insisted that the WNBA was bigger than any one player, even one with Clark's caliber of impact.
This noise came by people that were sitting on this network. They tried to minimize her, said, well, you giving her all this credit. What about the women that came before her? What the women came before her, what they did cannot be taken away. That ain't got nothing to do with CaitlinClark. But there was a lot of people tried to make sure they keep CaitlinClark in her place because what you're doing, if you give her all this shine, you minimize what they done. We saw the ratings. We saw the merchandise sales. We saw the attendance. But y'all want to...
After that, Sue Bird persisted in challenging Stephen A. Smith. Even as ratings dropped following CaitlinClark's departure, she intensified her efforts to refute the notion that her absence was the primary cause of the NBA viewing drop. Many fans were irritated by this refusal to accept the CaitlinClark effect because the statistics showed that there were other factors contributing to the decline, which didn't sit well with those who had been closely watching the playoffs. Viewership had increased when Clark was playing and had drastically decreased after she left the court. Despite the fact that fans observed that the excitement surrounding the games had significantly diminished after Clark's departure and that it was hard to deny the connection between her departure and the drop in ratings, Bird continued to deny Clark the recognition that many believed she was due.
Clark has created more buzz around the basketball landscape and has actually transformed and revived a league that was the WNBA, and she is getting paid a measly.
It became more evident as the debate about CaitlinClark's impact raged that many fans believed the WNBA's veterans were out of step with the league's present state because Bird refused to acknowledge Clark's influence. Clark's performances had once attracted fans to the WNBA, but now they felt cut off from the very icons they had once revered. Many were concerned that Bird, who had previously been viewed as a mentor to younger players, was suddenly downplaying Clark's importance, leading them to question whether the WNBA was ready for change or if it was mired in the past and unwilling to truly embrace the athletes of the future. The NBA's refusal to fully recognize CaitlinClark's impact has been one of the most puzzling aspects of this whole situation. As soon as Clark joined the league, it became clear that she was different.
Don't y'all want a greater profile? Don't y'all want more notoriety? Don't y'all want more hype? I understand that it's going on still without her now that she's out of the playoffs because the games have been great. But the fact of the matter is she swelled the interest in
her games attracted sizable crowds. The WNBA seemed hesitant to fully embrace the CaitlinClark impact, even though her social media presence was unprecedented and her ability to communicate with fans put her apart from many of her colleagues. The WNBA was unable to capitalize on the surge of attention that Clark brought to the league, whether it was due to internal politics, player envy, or a plain inability to recognize her star power. The league appeared happy to let her succeed independently without the full backing of its marketing apparatus, rather than advertising her as the league's spokesperson. This choice would turn out to be expensive since, following Clark's elimination from the playoffs, the league's viewership began to drop.
Clark effect is definitely real. I mean, we can all see that. However, experiencing it in person is totally different. I was at the Fever in Indiana game last night, and the amount of 22s that I saw on the way to the arena and inside the Capital One Arena might as well have just been a home game for CaitlinClark. Not Indiana, CaitlinClark. The thing is, that didn't surprise me. But what did surprise me was how...
By failing to properly comprehend the CaitlinClark effect, the WNBA missed an opportunity to grow its fan base and solidify its place in the sports business. Instead, it is currently facing declining ratings. Angry fans and scant coverage of its major events. The league's hesitation to embrace Clark's star power has put it in a precarious position that may be difficult to overcome. One of CaitlinClark's most vocal supporters is still Stephen A. Smith. However, some have downplayed or ignored her contributions entirely. Smith has been critical of what he believes to be an attempt to hurt Clark on a regular basis. Smith has pointed out that the league seems to treat Clark differently than other players, whether it is through on-court targeting or a lack of off-court marketing. He has also talked about how opponents have singled him out with fouls and neglected him when it comes to league-wide recognition.
With your platform, you could have been doing this 3 years ago if you wanted to.
All right, we gotta go.
Stephen, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you.
Wow.
Don't do that. I'm talking to you about the power that you have.
Really
you
appreciate
missed, my girl, but you've missed a lot of episodes.
As the debate over CaitlinClark's treatment in the WNBA heats up, many of her supporters are beginning to demand that she quit the league completely. As Clark would likely receive more respect and have greater financial opportunities in the EuroLeague, they argue that she would be better off playing there. Additionally, they think that Clark's abilities would be completely recognized and that she wouldn't have to put up with the ongoing abuse and harassment she experiences in the WNBA. Many of Clark's followers are calling for her to quit the league immediately, and this movement is growing louder every day. They believe that Clark would be better suited playing in a league that recognizes her accomplishments and skills because the WNBA has shown its true colors.
Team overseas who would love to snatch CaitlinClark away from us and give her a crazy offer. I mean, Ice Cube was about to give her $5 million to play in less than 10 games in the Big Three. So the money is there, and if these owners are smart with it, I could definitely see more WNBA players going overseas and possibly.
The financial potential in Europe is another reason why fans want CaitlinClark to consider quitting the WNBA. The EuroLeague might be able to provide her with a more lucrative career in Europe, as the WNBA hasn't been able to completely capitalize on her star power. Women's basketball fans argue that if Clark lived in Europe, she would not only earn more money but also be respected as one of the league's top players. Clark would be free to focus on her skills instead, which include dominating the court and becoming known as one of the game's most entertaining players. Some WNBA legends and current players have chosen to ignore CaitlinClark because of her supremacy, which is a secret. These players have publicly expressed their desire for CaitlinClark to leave the league because they believe it would be better off without her, even if it means sacrificing viewership. They argue that she is too good and that her presence makes the league more competitive than they would like. Clark's ability to enhance play makes her a threat to some players, particularly those who are used to being the league's best players. They view